Intro. The British Empire was once the largest and most powerful empire in history, stretching across continents and shaping the modern world. From the spice markets of India to the gold mines of Africa, from the Caribbean plantations to the distant lands of Australia, the British flag once flew high. But how did this empire rise to such greatness? And why did it eventually fall? Let's dive into the fascinating history of the British Empire, a story of ambition, power, struggle, and legacy. Introduction. The British Empire was the largest empire in history, covering nearly a quarter of the world's landmass and governing hundreds of millions of people across every continent. At its height in the early 20th century, it was said that the sun never set on the British Empire because its territories were spread so widely across the globe. The empire shaped the modern world in ways that continue to influence politics, economics, culture, and language today. This essay explores the rise, expansion, and decline of the British Empire, as well as its lasting legacy. Early foundations, 16th–17th century. The roots of the British Empire can be traced back to the late 15th and early 16th centuries. During the Age of Exploration, Britain, like Spain and Portugal, sought new trade routes, colonies, and resources. The development of strong naval power became the backbone of Britain's imperial ambitions. The first attempts at overseas colonies were made during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. In 1585. Sir Walter Raleigh tried to establish a colony at Roanoke Island in present-day North Carolina. Although this colony failed, it marked the beginning of English efforts to settle in the New World. During the 17th century, Britain successfully established colonies in North America and the Caribbean. The founding of Jamestown in Virginia in 1607 became the first permanent English settlement in North America. Meanwhile, sugar plantations in the Caribbean islands like Barbados and Jamaica generated immense wealth through the labor of enslaved Africans. Another crucial development was the founding of the East India Company in 1600, which gradually expanded British influence in Asia. Originally formed for trade, it eventually became a powerful political and military force in India. Expansion in the 18th century. The 18th century marked the true expansion of the British Empire. Britain fought several wars that helped it acquire new colonies and strengthen its global power. One of the most important conflicts was the 7 Years' War, 1756–1763, which was fought on multiple continents. Britain emerged victorious, gaining control of Canada from France and dominance in India. This victory marked the beginning of Britain's rise as the world's leading colonial power. In North America, 13 colonies flourished, but tensions with the British Crown eventually led to the American Revolution. 1773. The loss of the American colonies was a major setback, but Britain compensated by expanding further in Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. Australia and New Zealand became new frontiers for settlement and resource exploitation. The Caribbean continued to be an economic powerhouse for the empire, largely because of sugar, which was produced by enslaved Africans under brutal conditions. The transatlantic slave trade became an essential, though tragic, part of Britain's imperial economy. The 19th century, the Age of Empire. The 19th century is often described as the golden age of the British Empire. After the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, Britain emerged as the world's dominant power, controlling key trade routes and colonies across the globe. The Industrial Revolution fueled Britain's need for raw materials and new markets. Colonies supplied cotton, coal, tea, and other resources, while Britain exported manufactured goods. The empire became not only a political project but also an economic system that tied vast parts of the world to Britain. Expansion in Africa. During the 19th century, Britain expanded aggressively in Africa. The abolition of the slave trade in 1807 and of slavery in 1833 reshaped Britain's role on the continent. Instead of relying on enslaved labor, Britain began establishing formal colonies and protectorates. By the late 19th century, during the scramble for Africa, Britain controlled large areas including Egypt, Sudan, South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. The discovery of diamonds and gold in South Africa made it one of the most valuable colonies. Expansion in Asia. India became the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. After the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the British Crown took direct control from the East India Company. India provided raw materials such as cotton, tea, and spices, and became a vast market for British goods. In addition to India, Britain also expanded into Malaya, Burma, and Hong Kong, strengthening its influence in Asia. Settlement colonies. Countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand developed as settler colonies. Large numbers of British people migrated there, and over time, these territories gained self-government while still remaining part of the empire. The 20th century, peak and decline. By 1900, the British Empire was at its peak, covering around 25% of the world's landmass and ruling over 400 million people. However, the 20th century also marked the beginning of its decline. World War I. The First World War, 1914 to 1918, placed immense strain on Britain. While the empire played a crucial role in securing victory, the war also exposed the fragility of Britain's power. Colonies such as India and African territories contributed soldiers and resources, but in return, demands for independence grew stronger. Between the wars, after World War I, Britain gained new territories such as Palestine and Iraq under League of Nations mandates. However, economic challenges and nationalist movements in the colonies grew rapidly. Gandhi's campaign for Indian independence symbolized the growing resistance against colonial rule. World War II. World War II, 1939–1945, marked the turning point. The war weakened Britain economically and militarily. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, overshadowing Britain's global role. The Japanese conquest of British colonies in Asia during the war also demonstrated Britain's vulnerability, decolonization, and the end of empire. After 1945, the process of decolonization accelerated. India gained independence in 1947, followed by Pakistan. This was the most significant loss for the empire. In the following decades, most of Africa and Asia gained independence. Ghana became the first African colony to achieve independence in 1957. The Suez Crisis of 1956 symbolized the decline of Britain as a world power. as it could no longer act without U.S. support. By the late 20th century, the British Empire had largely dissolved, though some territories like Gibraltar, Bermuda, and the Falkland Islands remained under British control. Legacy of the British Empire. Even after its decline, the British Empire left a deep and lasting impact on the world. Language. English became the global lingua franca spoken by billions today. Legal and political systems. Many countries adopted British-style parliamentary systems and legal traditions. Economics. The global trade networks established by Britain shaped modern globalization. Culture. Sports such as cricket, football, and rugby spread worldwide through the empire. Commonwealth of Nations. Many former colonies joined the Commonwealth, maintaining cultural and political ties with Britain. However, the legacy is not only positive. Colonialism also brought exploitation, racial inequality, and economic dependency that many countries still struggle with today. Conclusion. The British Empire was one of the most influential forces in world history. From its early beginnings in the 16th century to its height in the 19th century and eventual decline in the 20th century, the empire shaped politics, trade, culture, and society on a global scale. While it brought certain benefits, such as the spread of education, technology, and infrastructure, it also caused immense suffering through slavery, exploitation, and domination. Today, the legacy of the British Empire is complex. It lives on in the English language, global trade systems, and cultural connections, but it also raises debates about justice, identity, and history. Understanding the British Empire is therefore essential to understanding the modern world. Outro. Thank you for watching today's story.